Before we start the podcast, I just want to talk to you guys about Anchor. If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast, and let me explain why. First of all, it's free, so you can get it anywhere, anytime, costs no money. Second of all, there's creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer, whatever device you choose. As well as that, Anchor will distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more platforms. You can make money from your podcast too with no minimum listenership. That means a nobody podcast like mine can make money off of sponsorships. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. So if you haven't tried Anchor or you want to start a podcast and haven't tried it yet, download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. That's ANCHOR.FM to get started.
You're listening to the Dillo's Dojo podcast, hosted by Dylan Dillo Smith, Midwestern Ontario one and only MMA podcast, where we interview MMA fighters and voice actors like Sergeant Frank Woods.
What is up, everybody? It is Dillo, and welcome to another episode of the Dillo's Dojo podcast. I believe this is episode 20. I could be wrong. It's been so long since I've done one of these. It's been a good month or so. But I'm back, and it's been a good month holiday for me. I've been waiting specifically for this week in particular. We have just passed, because it's Sunday now, as of recording this. It is Sunday, January 24th. So, as of recording this, we have just passed 3 UFC events. We've gone an entire month almost without any MMA or UFC events in general, and then suddenly this week we get 3 in a row. So we'll start just first of all talk about the holidays. I hope everybody had a great holiday, whatever holiday you celebrated during that time. I hope everyone enjoyed it. I hope your New Year's were great as well, and I hope, people who celebrate Christmas, I hope you got what you wanted. I hope you were able to spend it with at least your immediate family, because I know with COVID going on this year, it's a little bit different, but I hope everybody had a good holidays, and I hope everybody is still staying safe and just staying healthy, and I want to know your New Year's resolutions, because I know everybody does New Year's resolutions, and I'm not one to usually do them, but this year I decided I'm going to do a New Year's resolution, and I chose to actually better myself. I want to take up more so of boxing than anything else, so I put the money down, bought a boxing bob, and been working on that. And most recently put a video on Twitter to get some advice how to better myself. So anyway, I want to know your guys' New Year's resolutions, because I don't do this shit. This is like the first time ever that I've actually followed a New Year's resolution. I know it's usually something people usually say to kind of make themselves feel better about themselves, and I get that. So I just want to know what you guys are doing this year. So getting past that, we're done talking about New Year's resolutions. Like I was saying, it was a straight month or so with really no MMA to talk about, no notable MMA to talk about, except for LFA, a couple days before this Saturday that started the whole 3 UFC event thing. But we're not going to be talking about that, because I don't even think I caught that. I think I was working that day or something. But we'll start off with the event that started it off. That started off 2021 for the UFC, and that is Max Holloway versus Calvin Keator. And this entire fight card, honestly, was just awesome. It was incredible. I knew it was the first one on ABC, so it was the first one on actual free television, American television. It's going to be broadcasted in so many homes. And before I get into the main event, it's going to be an exciting main event to talk about, but I just got to say, what better main event to have that premieres the UFC on a very widely broadcasted channel in ABC. And it was like some, I mean, not back and forth. The main event wasn't back and forth in that sense. I was gonna say it was like the Ultimate Fighter 1 finale, but it was still like an exciting, action-packed, like fireworks everywhere um, type of fight, and it was just a great fight to just tune into if you're going through the channels that time of night, and all of a sudden, well, actually, it was in the afternoon, so if you're at home, it's locked down, there's nothing to fucking watch, and you're just scrolling the channels, all of a sudden you see UFC's on, you're like, oh shit, okay, let's check this out. And then you pop it on, it's the main event, and you see that going on. Well, you're surely going to become a UFC fan after that. But we'll get into the actual fight card first. I'm going to completely skip the prelims because I think I caught maybe a couple fights on the prelims. It wasn't really anything notable to me. I wanted to talk about the main card because I watched the entire main card and it was awesome. There was nonstop finishes, 3 finishes in a row. The last 2 fights were decisions, and they were not boring decisions. The co-main event was a tactical and very fast-paced fight between two absolute veterans that were showing their grit and heart. And the main event was a decision and just a complete striking clinic. And I love that shit. I love the high-paced striking fights. As much as I love grappling, I love when they're just throwing hands and they're just boxing in there. It's fucking awesome. So anyway, let's just get right into this. The first fight that we actually got was two undefeated guys in Punali Soriano and Dusko Tudorovic. And like I said, these guys were coming into this just undefeated. Someone's had to go. It was a big like implication, who's gonna be the undefeated guy. And it was a fucking like back and forth first round. It was only one round, may I remind you. And it was a back and forth first round that saw Soriano finish Dusko, I think, via this like big fucking uppercut against the cage. And that was just the greatest way to start the card, in my personal opinion. But on top of that, we got Joaquin Buckley on this card. So for people who don't know Joaquin Buckley, I mean, you probably would have known him a couple months ago. He scored that viral knockout in, against Impa Kasanganay. And it was the one where Impa Kasanganay catches his leg and he like torques and spins as Impa Kasanganay has his leg and fucking heel kicks him right in the mouth and knocks him out cold because he didn't expect it. And it was clearly knockout of the year. But anyway, he was going up against a veteran in the UFC, not a super duper veteran, nothing like the co-main event, and I'll get into that in a little bit as well. But he was going up against Alessio Di Chirico. This guy, he's been in the UFC for a couple of years now. He's had a couple of fights. He's not very notable, but it's very notable that he's never been knocked out. He's a brawler, very decent grappling, but he has never been knocked out in his career. Even though he's got 5 losses on his record, he's not been knocked out, or I don't even believe he's been knocked down in his career. I could be wrong about that one, but I know he hasn't been knocked out in his career. And everybody knows Joaquin Buckley for that viral knockout, and that's exactly what Joaquin Buckley was looking for coming into this fight. He was talking about it all week, about how he was going to knock out Alessio Di Chirico and how he was going to probably get another fight of the year contender, or not fight of the year, knockout of the year contender. So it was interesting to come into this because Joaquin Buckley's got a lot of hype on him. He just came off of a very incredibly impressive knockout win against Jordan Wright, and then before that, obviously getting the knockout of the year against Impa Kasanganay. He's coming in talking all this big talk, saying he's going to knock out Alessio Di Chirico, but Alessio's never been knocked out in his career. So going into this fight, the fight starts off pretty aggressive, actually. Both guys come out straight out the gate. Alessio's pretty aggressive coming out the gate. Joaquin Buckley's hitting some pretty good shots, some kicks. It goes back and forth for a good little while, and it's mostly Joaquin Buckley pushing the pace. Di Chirico's doing a good job just sometimes eating the shots, getting out of the way of the shots, and kind of staying on his back foot but not getting trapped against the fence. And around 2 minutes in, it's I believe they're like right kind of in the middle of the octagon, kind of off to the side a bit, and they're just striking with each other. Joaquin Buckley goes for, I believe, like a boxing combo, not a kicking combo, and Alessio Di Chirico just kind of like just leans out of the way of it, and then counters it with like a nice like left right combo that knocks Joaquin Buckley down. And it was clear Joaquin Buckley was out of it when he was on the ground. Like if the ref had known any better, and I'm not saying it was a bad stoppage, it was a perfect stoppage, but the ref gave him time to recover. But if it were me, and I'm probably a bad ref, I would have stepped in right away the way he dropped. But Alessio Di Chirico follows it up with some brutal punches. Some brutal punches on the ground. Starts off with some hammer fists on top of him as Joaquin Buckley is like trying to recover. He's like kind of like, it starts off while laying on his back, and then he's eating the shots. He like keels over to his side to kind of trying to defend, but he's eating more shots, and he's just like, you can tell he's out. And that was it. 2 minutes, 12 seconds. The ref calls an end to the fight, and Joaquin Buckley's just laying on the ground, laying on his side, kind of sprawled out cold. And I'm sorry, I love the whole viral KO of Joaquin Buckley, but he has really been piggybacking off of that. And I was actually kind of happy to see Alessio Di Chirico win. It was really satisfying to see the hype train of Joaquin Buckley kind of just derail. So, yeah, that was just really fun to watch. But the next fight, like, if you didn't think that was enough, that, like, the first fight was a nice uppercut KO against the cage that ended in, like, kind of like a KO TKO. Joaquin Buckley gets knocked out by Alessio Di Chirico, so complete upset. And then the third fight into the main card, we have Santiago Ponzinibbio making his return, I think, since like 2019, maybe 2018, going up against the Chinese veteran Li Jingliang. And Li Jingliang is known for, like, he's been knocked out before, but he's known for just getting into wars. He's a complete guy of heart, and he's got heavy hands, and he just loves to get into those striking battles. But so does Santiago Ponzinibbio, but Ponzinibbio is also a good grappler. Anyway, so this fight was also a fucking banger. Ended in a first round KO, and didn't end the way I expected. But Ponzinibbio, he's pretty fucking good. Like, he's in the top 15. He's beaten some pretty decent guys, some, veterans in the game. And I was expecting this to be a easy fight for Santiago Ponzinibbio. I was expecting easy knockout for Santiago Ponzinibbio, maybe an easy submission. Nope. Ponzinibbio was doing really good throughout the entire first round. He was keeping Li Jingliang on his back foot the entire first round, and just was hitting some good shots. I think he even had Li Jingliang hurt at some point. But then just, it was like out of the blue, Li Jingliang just hits him with a nice like head kick, I believe. Or no, that was never mind. That was the Joaquin Buckley KO. Alessio Di Chirico knocked him out with a head kick. And sorry, I was thinking of this fight. Yeah, okay. Li Jingliang and Santiago Ponzinibbio were kind of striking in the middle, and Li Jingliang caught him, knocked him down, started swarming him. It was a complete finish. Like, you could tell Santiago Ponzinibbio was out. My bad, guys. I got a little mixed up between my fights. Yeah, going back to the Joaquin Buckley one first. Yes, sorry, it wasn't them striking in the middle. They were on, like, off to the side a bit, kind of in the middle. So the exact position is exactly where I remember it, but the knockout wasn't exactly what I remember. It wasn't a counter like left hook, right hook combo. That was the Li Jingliang KO on Santiago. Sorry. Alessio Di Chirico actually hit Joaquin Buckley with a nice head kick. It was kind of like he faked a body kick and kind of brought his leg up a bit more as Joaquin Buckley kind of like ducked down and kind of went to block the body kick, and then he caught Joaquin Buckley with the head kick, knocked him down, and then swarmed him with the punches. So part of the KO I said was it was right, but it was a head kick, not a counter combo. And yes, the Li Jingliang KO, he countered Santiago Ponzinibbio, knocked him down. I believe, like, clearly, pretty much had him out cold. Like, the way he dropped, you were like, oh, yeah, he's out. Hit him up with some follow-up shots, not too many. The ref stepped in, and that was it. That was over. I was really surprised. It was a big upset, too, because I believe Santiago Ponzinibbio was like a plus 200 favorite or something like, or a minus 200 favorite or something like that. And yeah, it was really, really surprising when that happened. And it just really set the tone for the whole card. So if that wasn't good enough, it was just incredible. We had 3 KOs. Next thing you know, the co-main events here, we have two guys who love to strike but are great at grappling. They're gritty. They love wars. It's clearly going to be a banger, man. Like, there's these two veterans. They're all around, just rounded up mixed martial artists. They've been in the game longer than anybody. Matt Brown's been in the UFC since, I believe, like at least 2010, if I can think about it. Carlos Condit has been in the fucking UFC since like 2007. These guys have been in the UFC for a long fucking time, fighting even longer. What's the math here? It's like, I believe there's fucking 56 wins between them both. That's just their wins. If I can do the math correctly here, it might take me a little fucking bit, but yeah, yeah. So that's an extra 21. So fucking, they've had 77 fights, 78 fights between them both coming into this fight, and that just goes to show like these guys are still fighting, still going at it to this day, and it was just no short of that when they fought. The first round, it was more so, I believe Matt Brown had the first round a little bit more. He started off a bit more aggressive. Carlos Condit hit him with some good shots, but after that little bit, Matt Brown pushed him against the cage with a clinch, started hitting him with some elbows and just kind of suffocating him, and then took him to the ground and just started beating the hell out of him on the ground. But it wasn't like Carlos Condit was in any trouble at all on the ground. He was trying his own shit. He was scrambling, constantly transitioning, forcing Matt Brown to not stay complacent in one position. It was great grappling on both guys' part, and Carlos Condit was also trying to threaten with some submissions while he was on the ground, but it was a clear Matt Brown round. It was a close round, but I would have edged it towards Matt Brown because he was remaining on top. It wasn't like he was doing nothing on top. He was beating the hell out of Carlos Condit, hitting him with some elbows, and just constantly transitioning with Carlos Condit and trying not to give up his position. And then the second round came, and it was like Carlos Condit just woke up, and Matt Brown just kind of like started to slow down. Carlos Condit came in and started doing the same thing Matt Brown did to him in the first round, started pressuring him against the cage and suffocated him, started hitting him with some short shots in the clinch, took him down, and then started really like threatening submissions constantly on the ground. But it wasn't like Matt Brown was in any trouble with the submissions. Like, every time Carlos would go for a submission, like, there was a lot of submission attempts, but every time Carlos would go for a submission, Matt Brown would get out of it. You know, that kind of veteran game mentality. It's going to be hard to kind of submit each other when both guys are pretty well versed in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and submission defense in general. So it was pretty interesting to watch that. It was constant, like, crazy ass reversals against the cage and stuff. It was very fast paced. Whenever they would like scramble on the ground and try to reverse each other, they'd end up standing up. It'd be a striking battle again. Then it'd end up on the ground with some crazy ass fucking takedown attempts or some crazy ass like transitions. And it was like a really good tactical fight, but not one of those like boring grappling fights. It had everything. It had pretty decent striking, kickboxing, great clinch fighting. Like I loved the clinch fighting from both guys. And going into the third round, it was like anybody's game. It was 1-1, and Matt Brown was getting pressured, but Matt Brown kind of scored a takedown later on in the fight. But throughout the entire third round, it was Carlos Condit that was pushing the pace of the fight and trying to submit and keep like Matt Brown on the ground. And Matt Brown just did an incredible job staying out of danger, just constantly transitioning. Same thing that Carlos Condit was doing to Matt Brown in the first round. It was the same thing, just constantly moving on the ground, not letting Carlos get complacent, constantly just transitioning, trying to reverse, just trying to threaten him in that sense. So it was really interesting to see that happen, and it was just a really fun fight altogether. But yeah, Carlos edged out the decision in the end. It was a really weird scoring process. Everybody, including some of the fighters that were watching, even I believe Carlos Condit said that he had it 29-28 going into the scorecards. And I wouldn't have been it wouldn't have been an argument either way. Both guys fought really well, but we all knew Carlos won, and even Matt Brown said, like, after the fact, he's been making a big deal about the scoring, but he didn't say that he got robbed. He knew he lost. He's like, yeah, no, I knew that Carlos won, but still 30-27 is what he got. 30-27 all around the board. And that is just absolutely fucking ridiculous, because Matt Brown clearly won the first round in everybody's eyes. I don't know what fight they were watching or how they're scoring the fight, but in every single fan's eyes, they scored it for Matt Brown, and it was really retarded to kind of see that it was 30-27. So other than that stupid scoring, other than that little fucking mistake that kind of made me worried for the main event, the co-main event was incredible. It delivered to what the hype was, because there was another thing behind this fight. These guys were supposed to fight like years ago, and it just kept getting canceled due to injuries or other, other things. And finally, these guys are squaring up, albeit past their primes, but they're both past their primes. They're in a good position to fight each other. And they went at it, and they gave it their all. Both guys showed their heart, their grit, their absolute intelligence to this game. And I believe both guys said they were going to retire after the fight, but Matt Brown, not really happy with the scoring decision, I think, is pretty fired up and wants another fight. And Carlos Condit, scoring the win, didn't really say anything about his plans to retire, even though he said this might be his last fight. He seems like he's planning on fighting some more, so it'd be incredible to see Carlos Condit fight some more. Like I said in a podcast a while back, the way he fights, I believe he could be a gatekeeper for the top 15, maybe a little bit out of that. He can still hang with some of the new guys that come in, and he can still threaten them. So it's really exciting to see what's next for Carlos Condit. I wouldn't have been mad if he retired. He had a good career, but it's really nice to see that he didn't retire, and that's going to bring us into our main event of that night, or that afternoon, I guess. And that was a featherweight main event between the number one ranked contender and the former featherweight champion, Max Holloway. My favorite fighter, not my favorite fighter ever, but one of my favorite fighters of all time, because he is just always fun to watch. As you guys know, I love the boxing aspect of MMA, like especially the MMA style boxing, and he is a fucking artist at it. Consider him the Da Vinci or the Picasso, or I don't know, the Van Gogh or whatever of I don't know, like MMA boxing. It's just so beautiful to watch him fight. His volume, his combos, how he's constantly fighting from all angles, and just even his evasiveness is awesome. So he was going up against a up-and-comer, someone who's older than him, however, though, in Calvin Keator. And Calvin Keator's been on a complete fucking run. He's been on quite the knockout streak. One of his notable knockouts was his kind of like Boston Crab elbow knockout on Jeremy Stevens that just like flattened Jeremy Stevens. It was clear that like maybe Jeremy Stevens could have defended himself and could have taken more punches, but like it was walk off. Like that's how stylish it was. He just rocked Jeremy Stevens' world with that elbow, and he's just very well known for being a decent defensive grappling, but just an all around great boxer. Heavy hands, very heavy hands. Like while Max Holloway is a very voluminous striker and has power, Calvin Keator just has power, but it's power that can literally change the outcome of the fight in a fucking snap like that. And that's what a lot of people were expecting that night with this fight. So going into this, we had 21-6 Max Holloway going against 22-4 Calvin Keator, and it just the way it started was something else. The first round, Max Holloway, he kind of like he's not Donald Cerrone slow. Like he'll get going in the first round, but it takes him a little bit. He feels it out and everything. He didn't do that, man. He came running out the gate, hit him with a few shots, and started really kind of pressuring Calvin Keator to try and counter, and was feeling out the process. And it didn't take him long to feel it out. And he started using, even though Calvin Keator had the reach, Max really used his length because he's tall. I believe Calvin Keator's a bit shorter than him, but Calvin Keator has like a 5-inch reach advantage, like arm's length, on Max Holloway. And Max Holloway just closed the pocket, used his distance to kind of bounce in and out, and just used his distance to throw kicks, closed the pocket so well, and was using volume striking to constantly keep Keator on the back foot. Keator was trying to hit his heavy punches, but like he could only land maybe one or two to Max's like fucking 30 punches. So the first round was very, very fun in that regard because Calvin Keator still had some fighting him, and he hit Max Holloway with a couple good shots, but Max Holloway had him pretty like wobbled, and it was just back and forth, but mostly a Max Holloway round. It was like constant Max Holloway volume striking, just boom, 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 like fucking nostalgia to back to fucking Brian Ortega when he punished Brian Ortega. And that was, I felt, when I was watching that night, I was like, or I guess the afternoon, I have to keep remembering last night was the night, but the other two fight nights before, like the Holloway one and the one I'm going to talk about next, were in the afternoon. So, but anyway, yeah, fucking, I was like, okay, this might be either Max Holloway's going to tire, which I don't see it happening because he's got cardio like a machine, or like this is definitely going to be what the fight is going to come to in the later rounds. And I was right. Second round, he does the same thing. Comes out aggressive. Calvin Keator tries to hit him with a couple shots. He kind of takes one, weaves out of the way of the other one, starts backing Calvin Keator up with his fucking volume striking again, these nice ass combos. And he's not even just like hitting straight from down the center. Like he's throwing these combos all around from like the left, from the right, through the center, just constantly making Calvin Keator guess, throwing kicks, throwing body shots. That's another thing that was great about his boxing. It wasn't just straight to the head. Like I'm talking like, it sounds like I'm making it sound like he was just going to the head with volume strikes. No, he was constantly changing levels. He was ducking for body shots, going to the head a couple times, taking a few body shots, going to the head once, just constantly making Calvin Keator guess where exactly he's going to go with his boxing. And then he'll throw a kick every now and then. And it wasn't like a typical, like, you know, type of high roundhouse kick that I would throw. It was like a spinning heel kick to the body, or, you know, a hook kick or a question mark kick to the head that just kind of keeps Calvin Keator on his toes. And I don't know, man, Max just looked incredible. And if that Max Holloway went up against Volkanovski the second time, I believe that maybe Max Holloway's win would have been a little bit more defined, and nobody would have said it was a robbery, because I can see why Volk won the last, like their second contest. But if this Max Holloway went out like that and just kind of denied Volk's wrestling, my God, he would just pummel Volk. The second round, he was, like I said, he was just throwing these combos, just changing levels, hitting the body, hitting the head, constantly hitting from like left, from right, from down below left, from down below right, hitting the body, hitting the head from down below, like just these weird angles. And even though he'd eat a couple shots, he was constantly just kind of ducking and weaving out of the way of Calvin Keator's shots, to the point where like he was hitting Calvin Keator with some nice counter shots too, and almost finished Calvin Keator in the second round. Had him wobbled against the fence, was fucking just rushing him against the fence. Calvin Keator's wobbling on his feet, trying to survive, and obviously Max didn't finish it because we go on to the third round, but it was just getting exciting more and more as the fight went on. And then in the third round, it was like after that, like after almost getting finished, Calvin Keator was tired, but he just knew what he had to do and started kind of implementing his game plan a bit more, which was just throw heavy strikes and try to counter his volume strikes. But obviously, with Max Holloway, he's too much of a cardio machine to find an opening in his volume strikes. And if you do, it's like he's got a chin, so you're not going to knock him out that easy. So, oh my God, just third round, same thing. He would just pressure Calvin Keator against the fence constant because they'd be circling around the fence. Calvin Keator would try to escape, and Max just wouldn't let him escape. And if he did, Max would be on his ass with the combos and just backing him up. And rounds 3, 4, and 5 were just all like that. Just pretty much what I'm explaining is just repeat, rinse and repeat for 2 more rounds after that. Just going to the body, throwing head kicks, chasing him around the octagon, constantly cutting off his exits. It was just great striking and just great movement from Max Holloway altogether. I'm not taking anything from Calvin Keator because he looked abominable, like abysmal that night, but man, his chin just held up. He took, I believe, at the end of the night, it was 700 significant strikes, maybe, or 500 significant strikes landed. Calvin Keator took all those. And only one time did he seem to be very much in trouble. Every other time, it was just, he just seemed to be getting overwhelmed. That was it. And that shows how tough Calvin Keator is, man. Like, well, I wouldn't say they went to war. It wasn't back and forth, but Max Holloway put the absolute smackdown on Keator, and Keator just didn't go down once. Got wobbled, but never got dropped. Not fucking once did he get dropped. So, if that wasn't a great main event to start off the new year, and not only that, but to premiere on ABC, I don't know what is. You got one guy who's showing his heart and his grit. His corner's not throwing in the towel. He's just grit, like biting down on his mouthpiece and surviving and just still in it, showing his heart. And the other guy is just showing his absolute finesse and skill with his boxing. It was so interesting. It was a great way to start the new year. But then, if that wasn't enough for your UFC fix, unfortunately, I had to work. But next, we had fucking Kieza versus Neil Magni on the on Wednesday. Like I said, I was working during this time, so it was like I was trying to kind of catch the fights at work every now and then whenever I'd get a little break, but I couldn't, so I had to catch these fights after the fact. But we'll get to those fights, I guess. We'll kind of skim through them because we're kind of running out of time here. We're already past our 30 minutes, and I talked way too much about the Holloway card, so I'll kind of like speed through this one a bit, and then we'll talk about the one that I'm sure everyone came to this to listen to, UFC 257, the Conor McGregor versus Dustin Poirier card, which, my God, was a great card. If the prelims were incredible, the main card was awesome, and the main event delivered, so I'll get into that in a bit. But the Kieza fight started off with a very close fight between Leroy Murphy and Douglas Silva de Andrade. And it was just very back and forth, but Leroy Murphy was using his grappling and kind of showing that de Andrade's weakness was more so wrestling. Not BJJ, but just wrestling, if anything. And ended up edging out the decision against de Andrade. And the same story happened with the flyweight bout between Matthew Schnell and Tyson Nam. I had Tyson Nam winning, but Tyson Nam, he's a great stand-up artist, but Schnell's an all-around fighter, and he's shown that. He's got the KO power, he's got the heavy hands, the fast hands, the dynamic hands, but he's also a good wrestler and he can keep you down. And that's exactly what he did. Tyson Nam didn't stay down for all too long, but it was very, controlling of Schnell. And yeah, Schnell ended up getting the decision over Tyson Nam, so good on Schnell. Maybe a new contender in the flyweight division. We might see him fighting Figgy in the future if he continues this. But that brings us, speaking of flyweights, that brings us into the women's flyweights. My favorite women's flyweight, Roxanne Modafferi, a veteran in the women's MMA game, and just an all-around goofy, nerdy woman. And going up against Vivian what's her? How do you pronounce her name? Arujo or Arujo, whatever. And that was just sad because she got Roxanne got completely dominated on the feet, and it was just really upsetting. I didn't watch the whole fight. When I caught up on it, I was like, nope, nope. And then after that fight, we have light heavyweights Ike Villanueva versus Vinicius Morhea. And Ike Villanueva, being the veteran in the game, scored a 39-second knockout in round number 2, so good on him. This was the one that I wanted to talk about, though, because yes, the main event was pretty cool. Michael Kieza and Neil Magni, but the co-main event, Warley Alves, the guy to submit Kobe Covington, the only other person to beat Kobe Covington in his professional career, just besides Kamaru Usman, was going up against this guy who's just extremely hyped. He was a household name over in the United Arab Emirates and over in Abu Dhabi, in Munir Lazez. But Warley Alvarez, man, hits him with 3 body kicks in the same spot in a row. The last one blocked, but hit him so hard, you could tell the impact, smacked the elbow, and the elbow impacted against the fucking ribs or something, or the liver or something, and just shut him down. After those 3 body kicks, Lazez just dropped like a sack of potatoes, crumpled over, like something hurt him in his body. We weren't, when I was watching, the commentators weren't sure if the last kick shut his liver down because it was foot to elbow and the elbow collided with the liver, or if it just broke his ribs or something. But he seemed to have been walking fine and breathing fine when he got back up. I think his liver shut down, man. He got hit with a liver shot. It happens. That's one of the best ways to shut a person down, when you're going to the body. But yeah, no, good win for Warley Alves. Just honestly, holy crap. If it wasn't bad enough that he derailed Kobe a while back before Kobe got back on his fucking shit, he derails this guy right in his home fucking country with a brutal body TKO. It was fucking awesome. But that leads us into our main event, and not much to really talk about in this main event. Michael Kieza versus Neil Magni, number 8 versus number 9. This was originally supposed to be Khamzat Chimaev versus Leon Edwards, but Khamzat pulled out because he's a pullout artist. I'm just kidding. It was some undisclosed reasons. At first, it was Khamzat got COVID, but then yet again, like the last time, his teammates, his gym mates are saying no, he doesn't have COVID. It was for injury reasons, but we don't know what the injury is. There's nothing clear about it. But since they've been rebooked, I believe March 16th is their rebooking date, so they will be main eventing a fight night on March 16th, and that's going to be exciting. The Chimaev Express, choo-choo, everybody. Khamzat Chimaev going up against the pretty much the perennial number 1 contender at welterweight, Leon Edwards, even though the guy hasn't fought in a while. So it's going to be exciting to see how that goes, because we've got the unproven Chimaev, who's just super hyped up, like McGregor level hyped up almost in the MMA community, up against Leon Edwards, who's a mainstay in this sport and hasn't really lost much, and was actually on the cusp of a title shot, but just kept getting injured, kept turning down certain fights he was given because he wanted the title shot, stuff like that. It was just really confusing. So they've been since rebooked. But anyway, the main event for Wednesday's fights were Michael Kieza versus Neil Magni, and it was, if you know Michael Kieza, he's a takedown artist, very good with volume striking like Kobe Covington, but very much a takedown artist. He's good with submissions, loves to just lay and pray for the most part, but I can't say he laid and prayed that night or that day, I guess, because it was Wednesday afternoon. I can't say he laid and prayed against Neil Magny. He did and he didn't, because he did for the most part, but every now and then he'd try for submissions and Neil Magny would try to get up and Michael Chiesa would threaten him with submissions and stuff like that. But it was just all Michael Chiesa, showing that ever since he made it to welterweight, he's just been a force to be stopped. It's scary. And after the fight, he called out Kobe Covington, so maybe we might see Covington versus Kieza in the future, but I still believe deep in my heart that they're trying to get Covington versus Masvidal happening on either a fight night or maybe the co-main of like a big pay-per-view or something. So we'll see. But Kieza called out Kobe Covington. We'll see what's next for Michael Kieza. Tough break for Neil Magny, but he still remains in the top 10 after that. And that brings us to the big event that you guys wanted to see, the main card of UFC 257. I did say that the prelims were pretty great, and I'll brush over them a bit. I won't get into any names for the most part, but I wanted to actually get into it because like I said, the prelims, I'm not going to say any names, but the prelims were really fun. All the fights delivered. A lot of them were decisions. I believe there was only one submission, and I said I wouldn't name names, but that was Juliana Pena, which was a great submission of Sarah McMahon. Sarah McMahon just completely showing her heart in that fight as Juliana Pena just took over from round 2 and 3 on the back, just on the ground. So it was a good fight between those two. But the rest were all decisions, and very much for the most part were not boring at all. Like, yeah, I was gaming during it all, but I had them on the other screen as I was watching, and it was really hard to game as I'm kind of going back and forth because the fights were pretty interesting. They were fast paced, for the most part exciting, just really very very back and forth, how it always is in the prelims. And if you miss the prelims, I mean, I wouldn't blame you if you're a casual, because it's a McGregor card. The casuals are going to be out in force. And to all the casuals out there, to all you filthy casuals, I hope you got what you fucking bargained for, because this main card delivered. And honestly, you guys should have hit the prelims. I know you guys are filthy casuals, but you would have got your money's worth in the prelims as well. But anyway, the prelims delivered. That's all I'm going to leave it at. Let's get into this fucking main card. So if you're going to follow along, you filthy casuals, feel free to. The fucking first fight of the night, my God, was one that I was actually really excited for. My favorite women's fighter, Amanda Ribas. She's so adorable. She was going up against Marina Rodriguez. And I thought, like, she was a heavy favorite, Amanda Ribas was. Marina Rodriguez nobody saw her winning this. And Marina Rodriguez said, like, okay, if I gotta win this, it can't be by decision. I gotta knock her out. So this was a big upset. It was all Amanda Ribas in the first round. Amanda Ribas just threatening with the submissions and the takedowns and everything. Marina Rodriguez hitting her shots every now and then, doing all right, I guess. But in the round 2, that's when it changed, because there wasn't much of a round 2. Marina Rodriguez came out a little bit more aggressive, started like closing the distance immediately and clinching, had her up against the fence, hit her with some elbows that just wobbled Amanda Ribas. And in the weirdest thing possible, because it was Herb Dean reffing the fight, Marina Rodriguez started hitting her with some shots, some nice combos that was kind of making her wobble all over the place on her feet. And Amanda Ribas was clearly out of it. And I thought, like, it kind of looked like Herb Dean almost stepped in, but he didn't. He didn't exactly step in. He just kind of stepped in close to see if Amanda Ribas was okay. And I guess he determined that she was okay. I didn't think she was okay, but he determined she was okay. And it was almost like he just looked at Marina Rodriguez and said, go on, finish her, go on. and just let Marina Rodriguez hit like one or two more shots before he finally stepped in and realized, yeah, no, Amanda Hebus isn't there. So 54 seconds into round number 2, Marina Rodriguez upsets Amanda Hebus, and in the weirdest way possible. Not the knockout itself, just how it finished. The knockout was great. It was just, what the fuck was Herb Dean thinking? Like like I said, it looked exactly like I explained it. He looked right at Marina and was like, looked at Amanda, looked at Marina, and it was almost like he was telepathically telling Marina, "Go on, finish her, punch her in the face," and she did. So that was a good start to the main card. Great way to start the first fight of the night. And then we got a great middleweight clash between Dirty Bird. Also, I think he's like, his nickname is like El Dirty or something like that. But Andrew Sanchez versus Macmillan Muradov. And this was just a fun fight all around. Andrew Sanchez showed his chin, and Macmillan Muradov, for a middleweight, just loves his flying shit, man. Like, he was just doing these jumping teep kicks and these like switch kicks, just constantly making Andrew Sanchez guess, and he was just putting on a striking clinic on Andrew Sanchez, and almost finished him in the second round, until the third round. He had Andrew Sanchez hurt with a right hand, and just Andrew Sanchez looked like a baby deer that just got born, was trying to walk, and he just couldn't, and they had to put an end to the fight. But it was a great knockout by Muradov, man. It was a great fight altogether because Andrew Sanchez was hitting him with some great heavy shots. Muradov was just doing all these like all this jumping shit, all this spinning shit, just doing all this fancy shit, and it worked for him. And it was just really incredible to watch. I was really excited to watch that fight. These two guys I didn't really know much of, and they performed. They took advantage of being on the main card. It was good for them. But then we got a women's flyweight bout between, oh God, Jessica Ai and Joanne Calderwood. Nothing wrong with Joanne Calderwood. I like Joanne. She's a great fighter, and she was on the cusp of a title shot in the summer. If you don't remember, long listeners of the podcast will remember I talked about it. She was supposed to fight Valentina Shevchenko in August, but I believe Valentina Shevchenko suffered an ACL injury or some. I know it was an injury, so she had to pull it, because I know the Shevchenko sisters, they don't like to pull out unless they've got an injury or if it's like, severe illness. So she was supposed to fight Valentina. Valentina pulls out due to, injury. And instead of waiting for Valentina to heal up so then they can fight again, she says, no, fuck it. I want to stay fresh. I want to stay active. Let's do a number one contender fight. And so she drew Jennifer Maia. And unfortunately, as everybody knows, got upset by Jennifer Maia. And Jennifer Maia went on to win one round against Valentina Shevchenko, but, in the long run, get completely dominated by Valentina Shevchenko. So Joanne Calderwood comes back against Jessica Ai, and it was a pretty decent fight. Nothing notable to talk about here, other than Joanne just kind of pushing her pace of the fight and doing a great job of just implementing her game plan, really. And she ended up getting the decision, and I was really happy that she got the decision because I did not want Jessica Ai to win. But that brings us into our co-main event of the evening, a fight that I was actually really excited for, and I'm sure every somewhat hardcore MMA fan was excited for. The former Bellator lightweight champion, longtime Bellator lightweight champion, Michael Chandler, finally making his UFC debut. If you guys didn't know, he was gonna make his UFC debut in October as a stand-in for Khabib and Gaethje, but nobody pulled out, so he didn't have to. So this is his official UFC debut against Dan the Hangman Hooker, the guy who went to war with Dustin Poirier, the man in the main event, and went all 5 rounds with him and almost finished Dustin Poirier in the second. So I was expecting Dan Hooker via KO knees because Michael Chandler's a smaller lightweight, much smaller lightweight, and he has hands, like heavy hands, but he's known for mixing in his takedowns. So as Dan Hooker likes to do, he likes to as he's backing up, pressure those guys and force them to take down. So he hits them with the knee. And I was expecting that. So I was going around to everybody saying Dan Hooker by 1 round KO knee. And Michael Chandler just said, yeah, you see this little fuck over in Mildmay, Canada? Yeah, fuck him. I want to prove him wrong. And he just came in, and while Dan Hooker fought a good fight, Michael Chandler was just pushing the pace of the fight, and he hit Dan Hooker with a nice right hand that just dropped Dan Hooker against the cage, and just it was clear Dan Hooker was hurt. Michael Chandler jumps right on him, takes his back, kind of like inside control, and just starts wailing on him, just capitalizing on the fact that Dan Hooker's hurt. He dropped Dan Hooker. It was almost like he had cinder blocks in his fucking gloves. Dan Hooker drops, starts getting the fucking snot beat out of him on the ground, and that was it. Mark Goddard had to step in, and it was a great debut by Michael Chandler. Michael Chandler wants Dustin Poirier or Conor McGregor, whoever's going to win in the main event. So we'll see who wins in the next fight. But it was a great debut by Michael Chandler. A lot of people were praising him, especially the man who beat him in Bellator, who's the current Bellator lightweight champion, Patricio Pitbull. He's like, congrats, my son. I'm so proud of you. Dad's proud of you. It was the funniest shit ever. But great win by Michael Chandler. His post fight fucking promo, like, you know, the in cage promo, it was very WWE like. You know, usually I don't like that shit, but it was kind of funny, made me smile. Anyway, we're gonna get into the main event now because we're running out of time. We got 10 minutes left. I might go over a little over an hour, just because there's some things to talk about after the UFC 257 event. Just some things that were said and some things I want to talk about. Won't be too long. But anyway, let's get into this main event, all right? Dustin Poirier versus Conor fucking McGregor. These two fought once before, so I know it's going to be a lot of casual fans listening in because this is probably the first fight that they've watched, or it might be like their third or fourth, but it's because it's a McGregor card. So that being said, let's just get into the story of this. They fought it on almost said December, holy shit, September 26th or 27th of 2014 at UFC 178 on the main card. And to say the least, they weren't exactly on good terms. This was back when, I mean, Conor's still talking his shit for the most part, but this was peak Conor talking shit, young Conor, like very, very cocky young Conor, still on his winning streak, like close to a Chad Mendes title shot. Like, I think this was one fight removed. Like, this was the fight before his Dennis Seaver fight where he beat Dennis Seaver and pretty much got a title shot off of it, obviously. Later on, not getting the title shot because Chad Mendes stepped in for Aldo, who got hurt, and it ended up being an interim title shot. But this was the first time they fought, and to say the least, Conor McGregor got in Dustin Poirier's head and just knocked Dustin Poirier out in 1 round with a nice shot that just dropped Dustin, and he just finished him up with some hammer fists on the ground. It was clear that he got in Dustin's head too, because the way that Dustin was fighting was very emotional, very like sloppy, and Conor's known for his counterpunching, so he relies on getting into people's heads. He relies on them getting aggressive so he can counter you when you're coming forward. That's his style, right? So it was really interesting to see how this fight is going to go, because that was how it went last time, but that was 6 years removed from their last fight, almost 7 years removed from their last fight, but around 6 years removed from the last fight. And Conor's a different fighter now. He's taken some bumps, and Dustin Poirier is a way different fighter now, much more mature, much more well-rounded. I think he's developed a lot since 2014, and well, last night showed it. I wanted Dustin Poirier to win, but as someone who's been watching this sport for a good while now, I thought Conor McGregor was going to win. Because I figured, you know, Dustin Poirier is a good fighter, and he's going to give Conor a war, but Conor he's known for his power, but I knew deep down in my heart that Dustin Poirier was going to win, and it was because he has that power as well. But just let's get into the fight before we do anything else. the fight was great. Conor came out. The walkouts were really intense, and I was hyped, like really fucking hyped. I'm sitting there in bed watching on my phone, just so hyped out of my mind. Um, and the fight started. Conor McGregor actually came out a little bit more aggressive than I expected, almost like Donald Cerrone style. Like he wanted to finish it like Donald Cerrone, 60 seconds. And he was not, swinging, not clinching right away, but just kind of moving forward, kind of closing off the octagon early, and kind of, jabbing a little bit here and there, throwing 1-2s, little jabs here and there to kind of test the distance. He was the one kind of, forcing the pace, to say the least. And anyway, he, so he kind of forced the entire pace of the first few minutes, but there was something that I noticed, and everybody else noticed this too. It's hard not to, as it's becoming a huge arsenal. It's becoming a huge part of your arsenal in modern day MMA. But the leg kicks. Dustin, as he's backing up, Conor's kind of closing off the cage to him. He's hitting Conor with these calf kicks, and Conor's not checking a single one. Now, I know a lot of people listening, including myself, aren't fighters, but as someone who has been kicked in the calf, who's taken a calf kick from someone who does kickboxing, and only one calf kick, may I remind you, because I just wanted to see how it felt. I may be exaggerating just a tiny bit here, but it was the worst fucking feeling I ever had. Way worse than when I got my knee surgery and I was recovering from that. Way worse than probably getting kicked in the... Nah. Getting kicked in the balls is still worse than that. But it was a fucking terrible feeling. And that was just one leg kick. That was one calf kick. Dustin Poirier's got pretty heavy kicks, and he was just chopping Conor McGregor down like a tree. That front fucking lead leg just constantly getting chopped down. And like I said, he was not checking a single kick. And that was very peculiar to me because Conor's a kickboxer for the most part. He's got a boxing style, but he's a kickboxer. He's known for his dynamic kicks, his wide stance, his counter punching. He was not checking a single fucking thing, and it was weird. It really threw me off. So Conor McGregor was kind of pushing the pace all through the first round, getting hit with leg kicks, which were kind of seemingly hurting him, and kind of almost hurt Dustin Poirier a couple times in the first round. Going into the second round, though, it was the same thing. Conor McGregor came out a little aggressive, tried to push Poirier against the cage. Poirier's hitting him with leg kicks, and they're just kind of, circling around. Poirier's hitting him every now and then, and Conor McGregor's hitting him with the, first shots, and Poirier's just hitting him with counters. But it's just, they're both trading. It was great. It wasn't one of those fights where they're kind of waiting for each other. It was Conor would start it, and then Dustin would counter and throw hands back immediately, and then Conor would try to counter again, and it was just like that. Like, they would stop and stand and then swing at each other, dodging and weaving out of the way a couple times of each other. It was incredible. And it was pretty much, that was the entire second round. This Dustin Poirier slowing Conor down with leg kicks, and Conor and Dustin just trading shots back and forth until around 2 minutes into the second round, he catches Conor with an uppercut that kind of hurts Conor, slows him down, and is pushing Conor against the cage. And then, Dustin sees blood in the water, and he's like, nah, I'm going to do this Louisiana style. Starts flurrying Conor McGregor. And I'm going to give it to Conor. He survived. He got hit with a lot of shots there and still survived. There was a couple times where it was weird. He was getting hit, and he looked like he was out of it first, and then he's backing up a bit. He looks like he's back into it. Gets hit again, he's out of it. Gets hit by another punch, he's back into it. Gets hit again, and he's out of it. Then finally he got hit with I think a left uppercut or a left hook that kind of came on a weird angle, and it hit him right on the button and knocked Conor flat on his back, and Dustin just finished it up with punches, and he knocked Conor out cold. It was incredible, and I was so fucking happy. Like I said, I thought Conor McGregor was going to win, and I have to say, for the record, this is the happiest I've ever been to be wrong, because I wanted Dustin to win really badly. He's a good guy. He deserves going at a shot for the lightweight title again. That being said, he said that he didn't want Michael Chandler after his win. So that's a little interesting. Who's going to be next for Michael Chandler? Is it going to be Gaethje? Is Conor McGregor going to want to fight Chandler now? Because I don't know. Part of me thinks that's going to be an easy fight for Conor McGregor, and he kind of wants to get back in the W columns. So, we might see that. But Dustin Poirier, actually, I want to see this fight. And, he said it. He said this is why he doesn't want Michael Chandler. He wants a fight with Charles Oliveira after his performance against Tony Ferguson. And I wholeheartedly agree. He, just like Gaethje, made Tony Ferguson look so out of his prime, it was not even funny. Even though Tony nearly had his arm torn off his body in the first round and he took it, I'm gonna kind of discount Tony here because Oliveira made Tony look like he was nothing. So I would be really excited to see that fight because Oliveira just seems to get better with each fight, and Dustin is clearly a way different fighter than years ago, so he's improved a lot. Both guys have been in the UFC for a while, as long as they've known each other, I think. That would be a fight that I'd love to see. And that being said, there was a couple things I noticed, though. As much as I don't like Conor McGregor, there's some people that were well, not the pictures of him like sleeping on the ground, that type of stuff, like, that shit's funny, but there was people that were actually like spitting on him while he was down. For example, Hamzat Chimaev just taking the picture of him on the ground and calling him a chicken and stuff, which is really funny considering he's calling Conor a chicken, a coward. He got knocked out, he's a coward. But this man has pulled out of the Edwards fight twice due to undisclosed reasons. May I just remind you, it wasn't injury, wasn't COVID, because many people in his gym have been confirming, no, he doesn't have COVID, he's good, he's here training. It was just undisclosed reasons. So that makes me think, who the fuck is the chicken? Right? Second of all, Jake Paul. Trolling on him. Jake fucking Paul of all people. Conor McGregor would absolutely eat Jake Paul alive in a boxing ring and in the octagon. But, it's the only way that they can get a leg up on Conor McGregor, right? As much as I fucking hate Conor, I didn't like that at all. That was one of the things that I hated. I like the memes, like the jokes that people are making, but the people that were genuinely spitting on Conor because he lost last night, I just don't like that part of the game, man. Because this time around, he wasn't even being a dick leading to the, on the lead up. Yeah, he was a little cocky like he usually is, but this was probably the nicest and most positive Conor has been in a lead up to the fights that I've seen in a while. It's pretty much on par with his lead up with, the Donald Cerrone fight. He was so respectful. And he was respectful with Dustin, a man that 6 years ago, he knocked the fuck out after making fun of him and saying all this fucking bad shit about him and getting in his head. These two guys were respecting each other the whole fucking time. And everybody's spitting on Conor because he got knocked out. I think that's just unfair. But anyway, that's just my opinion. I would love to see Charles Oliveira versus Dustin Poirier. That would be very interesting to see. I wonder who's going to be next for Conor McGregor. I feel there's two fights that could be in store for him. One could be Justin Gaethje, because I know Gaethje's been kind of calling for that for a while. And the other could be potentially Michael Chandler to get back in that win column. But you never know. I thought Dan Hooker was going to win against Michael Chandler easy, and Chandler fucking knocked out Dan Hooker like it was nothing. So we could see Chandler win against McGregor. But those are the two fights I'd love to see from McGregor. For Dustin Poirier, for the vacant lightweight title, because let's be real here, Khabib's not coming back. I want to see Poirier versus Charles Oliveira for the vacant title. That would be great. I want to see those two guys go at it. They're both very well developed now. Very much in their prime. Dustin's 32. I believe Charles Oliveira's 32 as well, maybe 33 or 34. Both guys are just improving the more that they get out in the cage, so I'm excited to see that fight. Let's see if Dana makes that happen. Anyway, I'm starting to fucking stumble over my words a lot more now. Let's stop the podcast here. I will see you guys in the next episode. I hope you guys enjoyed today's episode, and I hope you guys enjoyed the fights last night, especially the casual fans that kind of just wanted to tune in because it's a McGregor fight. I hope you guys got what your money's worth was, because I know, let's be real, a lot of you were probably watching on illegal streams because you wanted to spite Dana, but I'm assuming a lot of casuals bought the card, so I hope you guys enjoyed it, because I very much enjoyed it. It was a great card altogether, and that finish in the main event, man, just was just perfect to finish the fights. Anyway, I will see you guys in the next episode. The next episode will probably be Overeem versus Volkov, because that's the next fight card. There's not really much to know about that card yet other than the main event, so we'll probably get into that later. There will be a new mini on Wednesday, which will be talking about a very serious topic. A platform that I use very much is being sued for something extremely serious and disgusting, and I'm gonna weigh in on the topic, so we'll get into that. Anyway, I will see you guys on Wednesday if you guys are gonna listen to that. If not, I will see you guys next Sunday, and that is it for everyone. I will see you guys. Peace out.
You've been listening to the Dillo's Dojo podcast. Keep in touch with Dillo on his social media at Dillo Ross on Twitter and Dillo Ross on Instagram.